Hey, what up? Jericho here. A few days ago, I put out a video on how to kill Uber Lilith in patch 1.1.1 as a rogue after they fixed the bursting venoms aspect. Now, that video got a lot of comments, and in fact, one of the comments on the video inspired me to try out a different variation that might end up being a little bit easier for some people, and we're gonna go over that in today's video, as well as taking a look at what happens in case you don't one-shot her in the first stagger window in phase 1 and the ad spawn. How do you deal with those? Because you don't really have to restart the boss and break the attempt. So let's take a look. You can find a link to how the original build works and plays down in the description of this video, or you can click the card in the top right corner of the screen right now. I'm just going to briefly go over the things that we did change for this new version, and then I'm going to walk through the elements of the build really briefly, step by step. Feel free to use the bookmarks at the bottom of this video to skip any parts that you might not be interested in. The comment I mentioned was from the Godlike, and he was asking whether Shadow Clone would be a good addition to this build to boost damage in phase 1 where most people were apparently having problems with it. Now, my initial thought was no, because I hadn't played with Shadow Clone in a while, and also this build is heavily reliant on poison damage during the stagger window. In order to make Shadow Clone useful, you need to add the aspect of imitated imbuements to let it mimic your poison imbuement skills, but I wasn't sure we had place with it. After playing around a little bit, this is actually the first change we're going to make. So we're going to be putting on these gloves with that aspect instead of Fists of Fate. You also get 4 ranks to Twisting Blades, 12% critical strike damage, lucky hit to heal for some sustain since we don't have Siphoning Strikes, and some attack speed. The other change that we're making in terms of gear is I did what I said I should have done in the other video. I found a different pair of pants and I moved Disobedience from the helm onto the pants to make room for Exploiter on the helm for the 20% increased crowd control duration for extra stagger. Now, you are losing might compared to my setup in the previous video, which makes you slightly squishier, but that doesn't matter. In terms of abilities, the only real change that you really need to make is take out the 3 points in Shadow Step and put them down into Shadow Clone. Now, another minor change that I did make is I realized that Sturdy actually gives less damage reduction than Debilitating Toxins since she's poisoned all the time. So you get 10% for 2 points instead of the 12% for 3 points here. And I also added in Rapid Gambits 1 point. The reason for this is the same as for keeping Dash over Shadow Step, and we'll get to that later. Everything else in the build should stay the same, and you can find the link to the max roll planner in the description of this video. So now I'm briefly going to go over the gear, abilities, and Paragon trees in case you guys want to copy them. And in the meantime, I just like to say that I started this YouTube channel about a couple of weeks ago. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, and in many ways, I still have no idea what I'm doing. But a lot of the Diablo 4 videos, especially the ones on Uber Lilith or pushing higher tier nightmare dungeons, got a lot of attention, at least a lot more than I was hoping for when I started this. So at this point, if you guys like the content and would like to see more of it, the best way you can help out the channel at this point is subscribing to it, obviously, and then liking the videos that you find entertaining or the ones you'd like to see more of in the future so that the algorithm recommends them to more people. I get more feedback and I learn how to make better videos in the future. In terms of Paragon boards, I never really know how much detail I should go into this. You have links in the descriptions. I'm just briefly going to hover over the glyphs and legendary nodes of each board in case you guys want to copy it. This might not be the 100% most optimized way to set up your Paragon, but this is an easy switch, really cheap, only 2 boards to change around to my Nightmare Dungeon push video. That being said, let's take a look at a kill with this build. Now, you saw me one-shot her in one stagger window in phase 1 with this build in the intro to the video, but here I chose to show a kill where I actually don't manage to do it, just so you see that if your pool doesn't spawn when you need it, or you stagger her too fast, or you do too much damage before you stagger her and an ad phase does trigger, you can still get past that and not break the attempt. In this case, I stagger her too fast without applying enough poisons, and my pool doesn't pop when I need it. If this happens, what you want to do is immediately switch out your Clipshot Heart jewelry. You see me equipping a Revenge Bursting Venoms ring instead of my Clipshot Bursting Venoms ring here. You have to do this or Clipshot Heart will constantly knock back the ads, you won't be able to reach them, and you will die. This is the reason I chose to keep Dash over Shadow Step and put 1 point into Rapid Gambit. You need the mobility to be able to evade or dash behind the waves as they form in order to kill the ads. We'll also be going over ad phases in short segments at the end of the video in case you want to stick around. Now each ad leaves behind 2 boils that will one-shot you if you don't kill them in 10 seconds, so try not to kill all 3 ads at once to give yourself time to deal with the boils. After the ads die, she will start spawning waves in rather rapid succession. Notice here how I move to the outside of the circle, face in by holding the shift key and using puncture. Now this will ensure the wave pattern will spawn inside the circle and give you enough time to dash behind the waves as they are spawning. And if this looks complicated, if you practice it enough, trust me, this will become second nature to you faster than it initially appears. Overall, this build is much more reliable than the previous one to deal with the ads because you don't get the huge RNG factor from the Fists of Fate, so you can reliably count on your damage to be there when you need it for the ads or for the boils. Now once you do kill her, you need to make sure you have your clip shot back on and you equip Fists of Fate for P2 since you don't have Shadow Step, so you'll be short on Stagger. I am using a Potion of Lucky Hit here, but it's not 100% required. You again get off the initial Stagger before she spawns the initial 4 blood boils, and then you try to keep attacking her, and even if you don't get off the second Stagger on the second platform to the north, the fight is still trivial from here, and you just have to follow her around as she does the scripted platform mechanics. Now, this is important. You have to fill her stagger bar as much as you can, but do not stagger her before the last platform. This is because you want her to stagger for the 3rd time immediately as she lands on the last platform, or else she bugs out, spawns ads and sucks you in, and will most likely kill you here. If you are having problems with the stagger in Phase 2, I recommend you respec the 3 points from Shadow Clone back into Shadow Step while you're waiting between Phase 1 and Phase 2, and then it will become trivial just like in the other video. Notice how I'm slowly filling her stagger bar for the 3rd time here by just throwing in a puncture for the clip shot proc or just laying down a trap here and there just to make sure that she makes it to that last platform almost staggered for the 1st time just to make sure we get the kill. Even though it's mechanically slightly more complicated to pull off than the previous build in Phase 1 correctly, overall this one is much less reliant on RNG since you're not using Fist of Fate in Phase 1, which actually means you have all the tools at your disposal to do an ad phase in case you do get one, and that should overall actually reduce the number of attempts for most people, or at least so I hope. Now let's go ahead and take a look what happens when I actually do one-shot her in Phase 1. You have significantly less stagger because you don't have Fist of Fate and you don't have Shadow Step. So you want to make sure that you're matching up the amount of poisons that you're applying with the amount of stagger, and you pick a right moment to apply the Shadow Clone. Ideally, you'll want a situation like this where her life is around the 75% mark, she has a lot of poison applied, you just got a proc of your bursting venom spool, and her stagger bar is close to full. At this point, you just pop Shadow Clone, immediately apply the poison imbuement and go to town on her, and she should just melt away, and there you have it. I hope this is a nice alternative for some people and it actually helps more of you guys get a kill on her. Now on to some clips about the ad phases in Phase 1. One of the most important things you can do to make your lives easier that I'd wager most people aren't doing is when the ads are spawning, never be in the center. You want to go towards the outside of the circle, and while I'm not sure this is mandatory, I also prefer to be facing towards the center. This will ensure that the wave patterns actually spawn inside the circle and give you ample time to be able to dash behind the waves before they form. This is especially important for the 3 ad phase, which she does if she's under 33%, somewhere around there health as she's doing the mechanic. But it's also useful for the 2 ad phase, she does around 67%. Also worth noting is that the wave patterns will change as she gets to lower percentages of health, and you'll start getting this triangle pattern with the big circle in the middle while she stomps. Again, each of the ads in the 2 phases spawns 2 blood boils that will explode and kill you in 10 seconds unless you kill them, so Try not to make your lives harder by killing all of the ads at once and then having to run around dealing with 4 or 6 boils at the same time. One more thing I'd like to mention, if you find yourself in this situation right here where you almost kill her but not quite in one stagger, notice that she cannot die while she's summoning the 3 ads. However, if you bring her down to minimum health, if you kill the 3 ads as you see here, she will immediately die, despawn the circle, and you can still force a phase 2 without too much effort. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the video and that this helps as many people as possible get a kill, and I will see you next time.